Brothers and sisters, may the peace that can only come from the one God be upon you. We are here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow us as people of conscience to lose our morale.
Powered by our patrons. This is You Call That Radio TV, and we're live for episode 2 of today. Earlier on we spoke to the amazing Graham Armstrong, author of The Young Team. It was a bit late, so if you tuned in at 2, you might have thought it didn't happen. It did happen. It just happened about 3 o'clock-ish, half 3. You can watch that back after the show on our YouTube channel. Absolute legend. I recommend you check that out, man. Great chatting to him. And of course, on Wednesday, we've got Gail Porter going to be joining us here on You Call That Radio TV, and a whole host of amazing guests next week. I'm not going to go through them all just now because I want to get right into it and welcome the amazing Gav of Brains McLeod, Silibil N Brains. How you doing, mate?
All right, dude. I'm good. I'm real good.
Good stuff, man. I appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today. We live in crazy times, which you're not. You're used to living in crazy times, though, man. It's been part of your whole experience of the music career, really, isn't it?
I do crazy well. Crazy and me are friends.
So obviously we're going to go into you've got so many projects, whether it's solo stuff, the bands that you formed. But I think we'll go back, start at the start, man, and the incredible story, probably the greatest story ever told in the Scottish music scene. So let's take us back, man, to how did it all come about?
Well, I mean, I met Bill at uni, and the context of that is I came from Motherwell. And what a lot of dudes would be surprised in the Scottish rap scene is that I'm actually South African. I was born in South Africa, raised there till 14, and moved to Motherwell. And then I was a footballer. I came to play football. You know, that's the one reason that my dad kind of convinced me that, no, going back to this is our birthplace, Scotland. You can go and play for that team Motherwell that you watch them win the 91 Cup. You can go play for them, And I was like, all right, wow. So I was really excited to be in Scotland, but it was post-Thatcherism, so that was hard on everyone my age at school. Then bullying was hellish, and I went through hell in Motherwell. So by the time I got to Dundee, I mean, I avoided death in Motherwell by the skin of my teeth. And when I got to Dundee, actually I was dead. Like, confidence-wise, I was dead. I had no confidence anymore. So when I walked past Bill the one day in the kind of just outside the just outside the uni, he was wearing this like tight Hanson t-shirt, baggy ass jeans, and he had like kind of cornrows, and he had black fingernails. And I was just like, this is the coolest dude I've ever seen. Like, what? Who's this? Because in Motherwell, I was the only kid wearing baggy jeans. I was the only person walking with a skateboard, and my skateboard would get taken off me, and it'd be used against me. So seeing that someone else kind of was like me was like, wow, So we navigated towards each other. We had first conversation we ever had was because Bill looked in my backpack and saw I had a Wu-Tang badge on my backpack. He was like, "You like Wu-Tang?" And I was like, "Again and again," So we had that vibe, and he was unbelievably confident. Like, I couldn't believe that there was someone that confident out there. He was good looking. He could it's just that funniness of like being able to look at a girl and them just become like melt. So I'd never seen anything like that. I was extremely attracted and drawn to him because I had no confidence. Like, I was completely broken spirit-wise. And so within the first day, we started rhyming because he was like, I was trying to, I was looking at this girl that came in the canteen, and he was just like, like, nah, not for you. You know, she's cool. Like, you have to do it. Like, who are you? Like, you can't get girls like that because you're no one, right? Like, what are you? You know? And he was like, what do you do? You know, I was like, I play football. He's like, start again. Girls hate that. What else do you do? I'm like, I rap. And he was like, whoa, I rap. You know, so and that's where it starts. So I created a game called Porcupine, and we rhymed every single day playing this game. It was a freestyle game where you throw each other words, and then you have to rhyme perfectly with the word in like multisyllabics, or you have to where you get points is you create a punchline out of words just being thrown at you. And we played that every day. I'm talking about, you think Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours. We played that every day, you know. And we became proficient freestylers. We had no idea that there was a Scottish rap scene. We had no idea. Like, there was nothing until we met a dude from a group called Mellowed Elements in Arbroath. And then we realized there was another group in Dundee called Ran Clan. And then when you start tumbling into it, you realize, okay, there's these boys in Edinburgh called Scotland Yard. There's Two Tone Committee in Glasgow. There's Richie Roughtone, you know, and we started kind of like, all right, cool. So we got into that. We tried to break into that scene, just showing what we were. And for me, very quickly, it hit me like what we have and the way we bounce off each other by playing that game and acting. We were very good at acting. We'd play roles every day. That we had something, and obviously my ambition was I want to be something because I'm nothing. You know, because I've come from hurt and pain, and I don't want to keep reliving this pain in my head every day. I want to become someone. I want to become someone special. And if it means becoming the best rapper that ever lived, that is my journey. And Bill was too big for a little town, you know, like Dundee's not little, but he was too big for it, you know? So it made perfect sense for us to take the journey. But we go down to London, we get to the back of a queue, the audition, we see an audition because Eminem just broke, but we were kind of doing freestyles in our canteen and making fun of people and making fun of everything because that was the way that you got people to laugh and freestyle, right? You know what the freestyle's like. You got to make someone laugh. You got to say something about what's just happened. And so we were all about that. And then so people kept saying, this guy Eminem sounds just like you dudes because you make fun of people in this way. And it was just battling, right? Like people didn't know what battling was. So they thought two white guys battling every day. Oh, this guy Eminem's just like you guys. So then there was an audition in London. We go down. We're thinking like everyone loves us in our hometown, you know, everyone loves us, but radio won't touch us for love or money. So we go down, we get to the back of this queue that's going around Covent Garden twice. It's rapping, this queue is going around Covent Garden twice. And we're at the back of the queue. And so we're like, we're never getting in. We won't get in today. Like half of this queue's getting in. We're not getting in. So then Bill tried to snip in front of the first hot girl he saw in the queue. She was like, wasn't having it. I tried to get in, and this dude pushed me out of the queue. And so it was like, all right, we'll battle you for your spot then. And as soon as it was like, he's like, oh, your kids are from Scotland. We'll fuck off back to Glasgow, Mr. Loch Ness. And then boom, I'm just coming back with him like, well, let's see this asshole make those Glasgow statements when I smashed his asshole's face into a Picasso painting, you know, and just like bang, just start ripping people. And so we did that. We started there and we moved right down the fucking front of the queue, battling every person for their spot. And we must have got through 80 people because eventually people were just stepping aside like, Jesus, fuck, like, whoa, you know? You battle one person and 20 step out of the queue, out your way. So we got to like 3 from the front, and we stood behind a rapper called Jargon, who is best friends with Maestro, form a group called Natural Born Spitters. These are like the most elite rappers in the UK, right? And everyone has heard us now. So we're like legends of the queue now, you know? So like, and we're sitting there going, we are gonna walk this, you know, we are gonna walk this. The confidence was high. We get into the audition, MI5, Jargon, and them, they go in, they take the audition hostage. They pull on balaclavas, they run in, they take the A&Rs hostage in the audition. I'm like, oh my God, that's too good. And then I'm thinking, we don't have a stage show. These kids are like, these kids are drilled, like they know how to do this. And then they finished, and the A&Rs were like, nah, sorry, see you later. It's not kind of, you know, basically wanted to say it's not white enough, because they were very aggressive. And he was like, nah, no thanks. So they walked out, and I'm thinking, if that's not good enough, like, we don't have a stage show, we just have our rhymes. So I was a little bit shaken at that point. We walked in, the guy puts the beat on at the wrong time, comes halfway through a verse. I'm like, oh, fuck's sake, put the beat back, because already we're off to the wrong start now. And then I rhyme for like 15, 30 seconds, to the point where you can hear I'm rhyming Scottish, you know, clearly rhyming in Scots. And then they're just smiling, laughing. Girl's got the this A&R who had like literally the biggest forehead I've ever seen in a person in my life. We call her shovel face, but she's hiding her laugh with her clipboard. And I'm just trying to rhyme, and I'm seeing someone laughing at me. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what it's like? It's like, yeah. What? You know, so my head's trying to think, keep on the rhymes, and I'm seeing people laughing, and then the head A&R, this fucking asshole in a plaid shirt, pink cardigan, and loafers with his legs crossed there, wearing corduroys. He stops it and he's like, no, thanks very much, but it's cool. We'll give you a call. You know, we'll call you. And we're just like, what? You know, we've traveled 13 hours on a bus. You're giving us 30 seconds? Are you joking? You know, like, and they were like, is this serious? Yeah, guys, actually serious. There was that. It was so disrespectful. It was like, you can't call it was prejudice. And of course, it was like, Scots are fucking See You Jimmy hats. They're Braveheart. They're Sean Connery. They're not rap, you know. And for me, that was like, you don't understand how that hurts, because I've come from South Africa. I've changed my accent to be more like my father's tongue. I'm trying real hard to fit in, because I've been beat at school. I've almost died. And now I get to a point where my identity is completely gone, you know? I'm faking it every day, trying to fit into a Scottish rap scene. And now I hear that Scots are never going to make it. You sound like the rapping proclaimers. Go back to Scotland, you're never going to make it. For me, it was like, that tore me to shreds in a way I don't think Bill for sure probably couldn't comprehend how painful that was for that reason, but it tore him as well, because he was like, this is my fucking dream here, man. And you're just you're just going to say we're like a comedy group because we're Scottish? Like, we're a fucking hardcore hip hop group here, you know? And they laughed us out the building. And and then the story kind of starts from there. We get back home. I don't know if you want to interject. I don't want to talk too long, but the story really kind of starts from there.
Amazing stuff, man. And we're going to actually check out one of your tunes just now, and we're going to go into it. It's an incredible story. We had Silibil on the show before as well, so some people might be familiar with it. Some people might have seen the incredible documentary as well, and I know that there was a more recent one on Vice last year as well, which just sort of brought it back. And you know, it's a story I'll never get tired of hearing, man. And it's good to hear your side of it as well, because it's just it is incredible. So if you're watching this on, if anyone's watching this on Facebook just now, then you need to get the bus to YouTube, because we are on right now. We're on Twitter, we are on Twitch, and we're on Facebook. But we're going to get everyone. It's better sound quality, it's better video quality, and it's good to have everybody in the chat room. If you've got any questions for Gav, you can ask as well. So everyone's in the same place. So get the bus to YouTube. I'll put the link in the comments here, and we're going to go into this because it's absolutely brilliant. And this is the link in the comments, guys. So if you're on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, get the bus to YouTube. The link is here, and we're just going to share one of your tunes for the people. We're going to start with a tune that we actually played last time. I'm going to play it again though, because I don't think I think it's going to be a totally different crowd tonight that might not have seen the other interview with Silibil, which you can check out after the show. But it's also it was filmed at our good friend Robin for Teapot Studios, Gaff. So if you just want to give us a wee bit of background to that, I understand there was a flooding or something like that.
Well, the funny thing is, like, we came to, like, when I made that record there, you know, we convinced Bill to come along and drop in and do his verses. I actually lived in the studio with Robin. It's an amazing studio. If anyone's from the north around that area, like, record there. you have to record there. Like it's for me, it's the best experience in recording that I've had in my life so far. And working with Robin, he's the coolest of cool dudes. Like he's worked on big records, but he retains his like feel, his soul for music. So I love the guy, and he's turned this kind of old Macintosh school into a studio, you know. So I had a beautiful time there. We got stuck up in the snow. We got snowed in. We had to walk to a village to get rescued, because what we were doing after sessions, we're sitting drinking whiskey, and then we ran out of gas, so we had to walk through the snow to a village. So yeah, I absolutely loved what we did on that record. Some Silibil N Brains fans think that Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, the record we made, was the best record we made, and I wouldn't argue with that. I just think it's working with Robin and Grant Dixon and stuff, and that was a great experience. So this was just one of the songs that came out. I've always been inspired. I made all the beats on it. If you don't know, obviously I'm the producer and rapper of Silibil N Brains. So I've always been inspired by movies, by massive epic movies. So being able to work with stuff and recreate stuff that sounded like Godzilla, but not using the samples, but recreate it, was what I was trying to do with some of the songs there. And so this is one of the songs that kind of, I actually don't think we nailed the chorus on it. I think we messed up on that, but that's my own kind of perfection side. But a lot of people like this beat. So this is called Eat Your Brains.
I'm gonna eat you. Get in my belly.
Hey, yo, run, 2 beats escape. Come, S&B insane. You gotta run. The hungry for takeout. They're gonna eat your brain out. We're gonna eat your brain out. Eat your brain out. We're gonna eat your brain out. We're gonna eat your brain. Let's get it on. You're looking to settle scores, so bad that it only come with Skeletor. Tell jokes at your funeral, dressed as a corpse with bashfuls. If you wanted a 7-4, metaphors got paws, grow legs and more. Punch lines turn bars in the Tekken 4. I metamorph into a rabbit dog Labrador, jabbing more words that score than a Scrabble board. Monstrosity, I drop atrocities across the knees, dropping deep like Sharon Stone with your caution needs. People staring like I got to these, drop them on their beats to get the disabled row on their feet. So all these paraplegics backflip, I'm leaving rappers on their back looking mechanic. If they're rappers, please believe these asses. No 3D glasses and these theatrics and bad for kids. The guy glitter practicing pediatrics. The baddest person, leaving them stitches like a taxidermist plastic surgeon with his laughing cast turned on rappers lack purpose. I separate the men from the boys, unlike the Catholic Church does. Get booed, get drunk, get rude, get pumped, get buzzed. There's a lot I gotta do before I get booed, get drunk, get rude, get pumped, get buzzed. There's a lot I gotta do before I eat your brain out. I'm gonna eat your brain. I'm gonna eat your brain out. I'm gonna eat your brain.
Here I go again, just another lyrical onslaught. Satirical bombs brought from syllables, raw thoughts. Be warned not across this madman. I change folk the ghosts and chase them home like Batman. A radical, back from my sabbatical. We're lasting for rats, a class act, turn your family fanatical. A natural fact, I don't rap for the fame. Just a saw me dragging this game back from the grave. I'm Flint Eastwood, hip hop, fresh in the skills. So you broke back, rappers span a head for the hills. Build up and limitless, leave your half limbless. And start you running like you're out of the Paralympics. No one can handle me, son of anarchy. So gradually I'll make casualties from rappers with actual see your intentions, gappers I don't hear y'all. That's why I throw rocks like Messi with bulimia.
Get booed, get drunk, get rude, get pumped, get buzzed. There's a lot I gotta do before I get booed, get drunk, get rude, get pumped, get buzzed. There's a lot I gotta do before I eat your brain out. I'm gonna eat your brain out. I'm gonna eat your brain out. I'm gonna eat your brain.
I'm gonna eat you. Get in my belly.
Who once was a kid with the weirdest hobbies. Everyone poked fun, called me a zombie. Now I'm on the hunt, the beast that hunts me. So I'm kicking down doors, screaming, here's Johnny. Run! Here they come! You better run! They're gonna eat your brain out. Eat your brain out. I'm gonna eat your brain out. I'm gonna eat your brain out. I'm gonna eat your brain. Here's Johnny. Eat your brain out. I'm gonna eat your brain. I'm gonna eat your brain out. I'm gonna eat your brain.
Yeah, no respect in it. Yeah, no respect in it. I respect to the man like Mark. They love what the man talk on the radio. Hey, you never know. You call that radio. Call that the radio. You call that radio. Call that the radio. Come and say, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, just go with the flow. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, just go with the flow. Till you miss a mark, now go bend down low. Till you miss a mark, now go bend down low. Boom. Lot of mercy. Yo. You call that radio. You call that radio. Come and say, don't you be another man, I'll go lose your head. Say, don't you be another man, say, I'll lose the head. I say, radio. Call that radio. Straight from out of Glasgow. Straight from out of Glasgow, nice enough on the studio. Come and say, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, just go with the flow. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, just go with the flow. So till you miss a mark, now go bend down low. Till you miss a mark, now go bend down low. No radio. You call that the radio.
Oh, fuck.
If you don't really know what's going on, there's a show that also doesn't know what's going on. Call that radio TV. You call that radio. Call that radio TV. You call that radio TV.
This is You Call That Radio TV. We're live with Gav, aka Brains McLeod. Some comments coming in. Alan saying, love the video, plenty of horror movie influences. Petra says, Teapot and Robin, big ups, lucky to have in my life. Petra's over there recording some great stuff with them from time to time.
Nice.
And Colette as well. Boo, Teapot Studios, cleaner here. Robin burns her bra. Colette's also a local and knows Robin well as well. We've got Bunty Bain says, love it. Right on to you, Gav, says Sharon. Alan says South Africa to Motherwell is quite a leap, and I mean it is. What a culture shock that would be.
Absolutely. For the first weeks, obviously, I never felt coldness like that. So I actually used to say to my mom, and I came with like darker skin, and so I used to say to my mom, like, what, who's am I being punished? Like, who's turned off the sun? You know. And then after a little while, I started to see like my arm, and I could see veins in my arm for the first time. And I was like, Mom, am I dying? She's like, no, you're just Scottish. I was white. I was proper white for the first time. It's crazy.
We've got Paul's in the house. Good to see Paul. Stuart's in the house. Petra says, I'm hooked on this story. Want to learn more and want to see the movie, which we'll maybe talk about. Maybe there is a movie on the way. Gav's heart makes me want to catch the bullies as well. Yeah, man. I mean, it's just I think when you know we're not far off the same age, and when looking back, I remember it was a little bit people just a little bit where I stayed. There was people younger than us. The skater scene really took off, and it was just kind of accepted as sort of behaviour of young people. But like in our year group, you know, it was like, you know, anyone doing anything, you know, like a chain or anything on their or baggy trousers was considered a goth.
Yeah.
I can actually tell you one little quick story. But I remember one there was a kind of more kind of goth looking lassie who was at a house party once, and I remember one of my mates saying, "Oh, are you a goth? That's cool. I like Oasis as well." So I mean, that's kind of what you're doing with. That's kind of what you're doing with, because obviously anything that was not happy hardcore was considered goth at one point. So yeah, man, it's tough, and also having a different accent as well, and I think it's also worth mentioning because a lot of people don't know that you do have a different accent naturally. So because I know that, you know, once you've because obviously you've reinvented yourself a few times now, And then when the story came out and then you came back to do it, you had to deal with the Scottish scene not really accepting you because they said that you still didn't sound Scottish. And that's because, well, you are Scottish, but your accent's not 100% Scottish.
Yeah, and I'd always kind of dealt with that. And you know, some of my best friends to this day are the kids that I grew up with in South Africa. And like when I was there, they used to make fun of my accent because it wasn't a full-on South African accent, because my dad would speak he would speak like Scottish to us, and then he'd speak in Afrikaans to business guys, and then Zulu to like his people in his company. So, and then my mom would have a South African accent and he'd speak Scottish to us. So it was this weird thing of like, so my accent was this weird mix, and it was hard to understand that I wasn't the same as people. So when I came across to here and to Motherwell, and I met some of my cousins, and the accent was so different, you know, like, and I kind of tried to adapt, because obviously when I went to school, I was just a target because I stuck out so much. I was a Nirvana fan. I was a skater. I came from the beaches of Durban. So I was very, very, very different, you know, and I just couldn't understand the difference. There was no skater in sight. You know, so there was no cool culture. Hadn't really hit that area of Motherwell yet. You know, like you're saying, like
the satellite towns are a good bit behind. I mean, I think at that time you would have had a big skating culture and a big hip hop culture in Glasgow, but the satellite towns are always about 5 to 10 years behind even Glasgow, which is probably a little bit behind as well. So it's like, and I suppose. As well, yeah, man. Let's go back to the story then. You've been rejected. You're absolutely gutted, and no wonder, man. I mean, you're obviously dealing with the accent thing. Man, just to finish that point, the idea of you going back to South Africa and people making fun of your Scottish accent must have been like the final straw. Like, really, really though, because I mean, it happened to me a little bit when I was 16. I moved abroad, and when I came, I had to water down my accent, because otherwise people just say what all the time. So and also I did work a bit at call centers as well, so just learning to slow it down a little bit, pronounce things a little bit better. And you know, I would have my mates saying that I sounded English, which I didn't in any way, but just because
that's the real insult. That's the real insult.
So I can just imagine, but you go back to South Africa and then like, but anyway, let's go back to the story first of all. So you've got that, you're dealing with that rejection, you're absolutely gutted, and I mean, at what point does the idea come in that here, let's just if they don't want Scottish rappers, they want American rappers, let's give them American rappers?
I mean, I thought that on the bus back up. I wasn't really able to speak too much. I was like, you know, I was close to crying all the time. I felt like I'm very, very much one of those people that's like to the detriment of me, and maybe to the detriment of in the past some relationships. But like, if I want something, if I think that is the way to make my soul feel better, then I'm gonna go for it. Like, I will die going for it. You know, like I think everyone that knows me like knows that about me. You know, there's no gray area. You know, it's 100% or like fuck it, 0. You know. So I was suggesting, I was like, man, we had before that, I'd done everything in my power to make those beats. I spent all of my time college. When I went back up, I was going to a very different situation as Bill. Bill had he was managing the skate store that we worked in. He had a beautiful girlfriend, and who's now his wife. Life was pretty good for him in that way. He was very popular. So he was kind of set. I can understand why it didn't kill his soul, but for me, I was going back. They kicked me out of college because you got to go to college, I guess. But for me, it felt like I'm being kicked out of college because I've fallen in love with art, you know, because I'm making these beats, you know. And my DJ at the time, Skinny, Mark Agacan, he taught me how to make beats in many ways. Like, he taught me how to do the actual, you know, sampling the record and then cutting, and then that evolved on. But I fell in love with that. It was to me, that was magic, you know, like creating something from nothing, or something from something. And then, you know, I fell in love with beat making and rhyming at the same time. So I just couldn't leave the bedroom when I was working on a project. I'd sit there in the same position for 18 hours. I'd piss in a bottle just to not lose the flow. And so I lost my job then, and everything was just like I almost robbed a bank. I was planning to rob a bank, and thanks to our Bill and our best friend Brian at the time stopped that from happening. But I was really struggling. I wasn't sleeping because I had these dreams that were related to my trauma, and so my mental state was going to a very dark and weird place, and I was probably going to do something really, really dangerous. And so the one night I'd had an argument with the boys because I was kind of trying to like pull it along to somewhere. I was like, let's do this then. I was always trying to come up with ideas of a way to save this, to not give up on it. And so we'd had an argument one night, and I went home and I tore my room apart. And the only 2 posters that were left in my room. Also, I was kind of starting to take sleeping pills to try to deal with the sleeping issue. And so my mind state was not good, and it was starting to be affected by chemicals. So I tore my room apart, and the only 2 posters that were left was an Eminem poster and then Beetlejuice, the film. And I remember turning on the TV, and it was at a scene in the film Secret of My Success. It was at a scene where he decides to become another person to get to the top of this company. And a mixture of all that together was like, that's it, 100%. That's what we want to do. And the reason that was validating for me and felt like a way out was because I didn't know who I was, and this idea of faking, I was faking it already, So becoming someone who I really wanted to become someone who could erase my past, and that's the lie that I believe. All protagonists in stories believe in a lie at the start of their journey. And I believed that I could become someone so great that it could erase my past. And that was the trauma that I was dealing with. And so I had to paint that to Bill to get him to come along with this, because it was like that. So it was like, this can make us famous, this could get us the success we need for me to be able to spend every day making beats and keep this journey towards becoming someone. I didn't want to become the character just there. I wanted to go and experience a journey so I could become someone, that wasn't stuck in the loop of my pain. So then I had to convince Bill to come along with it. So I made I made an American track. I remember I took the beat to them and I played it to them and said it was some other rapper. And they believed that it was some other dude. And so for me, that was another further validation, because people were like, oh shit, that sounds like the new M record. So I knew that I could do that. I knew that I can make a beat like Dre and I can rhyme like M. So we just have, if I can get Bill on this, it changes the dynamic. It's cool because we still have that, the way we go off each other's kind of makes us unique. And then our stage show, and then we can take this back down to America. So I actually entered it into a BBC One Extra competition. When I got Bill to record his American voice, I entered it in a competition and it won. And that for me was like, oh my God. A few weeks ago, we're getting laughed out of the building. Now we enter in the number 1 station in the country and it wins. So I was like, we got to go. We got to do this. And it was still a little bit hard because Bill didn't want to leave his relationship, which is an amazing thing. And I had a girlfriend as well for 4 years at that point. And it was very hard to say, look, my life is out there, because it's hard to break from those strong relationships. But then our close friend Brian died in a horrible incident, and I couldn't be in the town anymore. I couldn't. Everywhere I looked, I was seeing his face, and I don't think Bill could as well, because we both suffered. Brian was the person who kind of believed in us more than anyone, and all of our crazy ideas, he didn't say it was crazy. He was like, I think you nutsos could pull that off. So when he died, I think it was the time, and it was like, fuck this, let's go for it, And so we created Silibil N Brains. And we created them over like a few days, like a week max, because as soon as that won and was getting radio play, that track, Shut Your Mouth, we got emails from A&Rs asking us to come to interviews. So we started the journey. We went down. First A&R that walks in the room at Sony is Scottish. And he's got this Glasgow, Dougie Bruce. I think he's still at Sony. I think he's one of the heads at Epic Records. And he sits down and he sounds very much like you. He's very quick-witted, and when you speak to someone Scottish and you're in character, you wanted just to break because it's like, hey, you know, like, you know. And he said something in some way through that first interview. I think Bill said, I can, because he said it, and it was so like quick. He was just like, what did you say? And he was like, oh, and then Bill was like, I said, I then, you know, because he was like, no, because I can is I know in Scottish. Like, so, and then he was like, where are you guys actually from? And then we kind of started to stumble the story because we didn't have the story tight. And then the story's falling down, and this guy's just like, okay, I'll give you, let me know. And after that,
with the accent thing, I mean, how obviously did you go through a phase of like, well, you were obviously picking up Scottish slang words and colloquialisms. Did you try at one point to just like put on a Scottish accent while you were talking before this?
The process from moving from Motherwell at school in Motherwell, I had to start having that like that drag in the Glaswegian type, like there was a lot of stuff I was taking on. And then when you go to Dundee, it's a very different Scottish accent. So
Dundee's a law unto itself.
Yeah, but like a lot of, when you go in, when you move to the area, they give you like, it's just like, what are you talking about? So it's like you try to take it on because we're like social chameleons in many ways. If you want to entertain, a part of being an entertainer is in somewhat being a chameleon. Until you know yourself internally, then you stop the chameleon side and you feel happy with yourself. But that's the journey to become that.
Yeah, well, I mean, all artists usually are. There's usually someone that's inspired them enough to whether pick up a pen, whether that's to be an artist or to be a singer or to play guitar. And you obviously, a lot of art is still to this day's imitation, but once you've created your own voice, then obviously you can take influences on board without sounding like them. But most artists, when they start off, they sound or look like someone else that has inspired them. What about it was doing the American accent? I think it was quite easy for you because obviously it was the South Afrikaans accent. It's not a million miles off American sounding.
Yeah.
It's not a million miles, and also you've got, I suppose, you've got so much culture. We grew up with American movies and American, we understand American slang and colloquialisms a lot better.
Yeah, Bill and I used to play off each other. We used to act out movie scenes from like Menace to Society, Poetic Justice. We used to act out those scenes, so we'd always be kind of in American culture all the time. I mean, I think anyone from that time would agree. But like one of the things I experienced, which was difficult, was when I was in my head and in Motherwell and I started to write, it was always an American thing that I was writing in my head with because that seemed like the normal place to start. And so when I'd rap it out loud, I'd have no issue. But when I was starting to do it in a Scottish accent, I felt like immediately like I've got a speech impediment. The liquid in my mouth built a different way. And so when you're doing like multisyllabics, like my head is spinning, me penicillin, my penicillin with hellish visions of being with the devil chilling, the clever villain was. If you do that in a fully Scottish accent, I was starting to feel that because my tongue hits the top of my roof, like to keep it there. I started feeling like the liquid was coming out, so it would be like the liquid distribution was not the same in an American accent. Maybe that's just for me, but I found it very hard, So when we started doing it back again in the American accent, I felt like a freedom again because my brain wasn't going through that. I wasn't thinking of how to, you obviously, when you're starting out and you're becoming a spitter, when you're becoming like a chopper, and you have to basically learn how to breathe through your nose and distribute the liquid in your mouth, etc., so you can do it on stage properly, right? But all of a sudden it was easy, and I didn't have to think about that because the voice in my head, when I think of hip hop, when the voice in my head was always American, because the American voice was an easy place to go in between the beach colloquialisms of Durban, South Africa, where everyone is basically speaking Californian slang, and then the kind of street, hardcore, broad Scottish accents are such a jump. It's mental, that jump. So that was affecting my rap voice a lot. So when I did it in American accent, it was like, back, your hands are untied now. And then we could kind of move forward. I don't know what Bill's experience was that. I don't think he ever mentioned anything like that to me, but that is what I was also dealing with at the time.
Well, it's interesting because I think that most rappers, well, myself included, there is that American voice in your head when you were writing, when you're from a young age, because this was there was internet, but certainly not in the scale anywhere near like there is now. and like most rappers my age, I thought I invented Scottish hip hop. And then, the first time you do it, you are kind of writing in an American accent. And I don't know exactly why. I think I maybe showed a friend it or something, just recording a tape, and straight away it's like, that's weird putting on an American accent. So it's like it's the opposite, where everyone seemed to start writing American, then very quickly went, oh no, I've got to go Scottish. So you've actually done that back to front, where you started Scottish, and then I had to move to American. And yeah, I wonder how quickly did Bill take to it? Because obviously his journey is completely different with doing the accents. Was it
pretty well, because Bill has American family, and so he was always going over there, and he was bringing his back clothes and stuff. We'd be like, oh, get like and one trainers, or get the new, get the new Nikes or whatever, So he was always going over there and quite immersed in that. And so I think it would
that does really help, man. If you can, if I spend a bit of time with someone long enough, you can usually catch the accent a bit. So that is, Colette saying, throwing a fifer freaks out any Dundonian. Shouts to God's country, the kingdom of Fife. They have their own thing going on as well. Sharon says, you got to say, Gav, you look like Ewan McGregor.
I'm sure.
Is Ewan McGregor going to play you in your life? Is the movie coming out?
Yeah, we could have got to that later. I mean, I don't want to speak too much about it, because we're in the process of doing
just leave it at that.
But I have just finished the screenplay. So
yeah,
and it's going to be amazing. And there's there's great things going to happen there.
Brilliant, man. It's long overdue. It is, like I said, that's the greatest story ever told in Scottish music anyway. And then let's get back to that story. So you've nailed down the American accents, you're getting radio play, you've had your first baptism of fire, which is unfortunately as a Scottish guy, or maybe fortunately, because that is the biggest test. It's like when when I was abroad and you slow your voice down, but then you meet another Scottish guy and you have a few beers, and you immediately go back to your old habits of speaking at 100 miles an hour and stuff like that. I love the fact that someone said it was Bill said Ken as well, and the guy's like, what? What did you just say, Ken?
Yeah.
What happens next, man? What happens next? So
it was straight after that. We walked out of the elevator. We walked out of that building, and it was just like, I was like, yo, we can't do this half-assed. We can't. We have to do this full on. And then it was the agreement there. It was like, because if we speak to each other in Scottish, it's going to be hard. So let's stay in. Let's go in. And so we had a show that Friday. We'd blagged our way onto a bill, onto a gig, an industry showcase. Like, hard to get these types of gigs. These are like, with an entire crowd are A&Rs. And so very hard to get. But I remember we had made the call and been played like the jerky boy role of like, yo, with Silibil N Brains from Cali, you got a show, put us on, and just kind of demanding the headline slot, and people being so like, okay, all right. And then they just gave us the headline slot for this industry showcase. So that night that we did that, us backstage being like, yo, this is for Brian. Like, we don't come out now. We do this show tonight, this stage show, and it doesn't stop. And I understand that that's quite insane, and we don't think that it's going to last as long as it does, right? We're just like, let's just give it and stay in. Let's stay in the characters. Let's make people believe. And then we do a crazy show, fake, the Silibil N Brains show at that time, because our whole point was nothing can be normal. We can't do a show and then people leave going, yeah, some rappers. It was like, everyone must say our name. Like, you cannot walk away not thinking about these guys. So whatever it takes, jump into the crowd, like, do crazy things, do insane things. That was the whole mind state. Have a fake head in the hoodie, with cut the head off, raise it up to the crowd, splash blood over everyone. That type of like insanity. We'd always battle the crowd. We'd stop and start freestyling about the crowd. So everyone felt like, oh my God, we've seen something like unique tonight, And then as soon as we came off stage, Chris Rockall from Ireland came up to us and was like, whoa, what the fuck? Where have you guys been? That's the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And then he was like, come see me on Monday to Island Records. So it's like, we're fucking in. This is it, and it was something weird about that confidence swap, pulling that camouflage on and being like, I don't need to be Gav anymore. I don't need to be suffering. I don't need to think about being beaten, you know, by bullies and almost dying. I don't need to think about that. I don't need to think that I'm a failure because my football career was going to go and didn't, you know, because of that. Like, I don't have to think about that. I could think, who are you going to become? The possibilities are endless here. Let's make something happen. That magic is in the air. And so we went to the Island Records, and we had before we went in, this whole idea of like coming up with the storyline. The whole point of it was that we need to create a story here. And when we're out improving the story, people have to walk away from meeting us going, wow, like what a crazy story. And so it made sense to make the story crazier and also have fun doing it off each other. So we would do that. We'd be playing roles, you know, like, and then just keep creating the story bigger and bigger and bigger, and whatever worked fit. But we created an arc of a mental story that's just like crazy, right? You know, there's not really believable, but also built out of the iconography of like great rappers that we love, their story. So it was all based on that. And then we tell that to A&Rs, and we went to the Island Records. We told that dude, Chris Rockwell, the story. And I swear to God, by the end of us telling him that story, just like, you know, improving, playing porcupine, you know, freestyling the story, he was just like almost crying. He was like, oh my God, because he's seeing marketability now. You know, he's saying, I can sell this, you know? And then after us telling that story, he's like, come with me, took us out into the A&R den, like the kind of the main group where all the kind of junior A&Rs sit. And he was like, oh, do what you did on Friday night. And we're like, what do you mean? He's like, you know, like that thing where you rip everyone a new asshole. Like, do it with these guys, telling us to basically rip his staff in freestyle. And we're just like, what? You know, so we just looked at each other and was like, it's another sink or swim past point of no return moment. And we were like, fuck it. And then bang, it's like, this guy looks like a wino. This guy looks like he knows where he hides fucking someone's knives, bro. This guy looks like he's got, look at this guy's pube beard. The girls want you near, you know, like just like freestyling, ripping the shit about the, look at this dick squirt. Dude, you're wearing a pink shirt, you know, like just flipping, ripping everyone in the room about their lives, and then kind of them all loving it. That incident, people picked up their phones afterwards and started spreading that around the industry. So we knew we had to create a bomb, because I told Bill, one of the kind of agreements was, look, we'll be back in like 2 months. You know, it's not going to work. We'll be back in 2 months. And so we had no time. There was always a clock ticking on this. Like, that's the one thing that people don't really understand, is there was always a clock ticking. Bill always had this idea of like, look, if it doesn't happen, you know, I've got married and, you know, I'm not going to be here forever. So it was like, but pressure on me was like, make this happen, make it happen. And so everything we did had to be like turned up to 11, you know, just mental. And these things started to get around the industry very quick. And then we managed to get the best manager in the UK at the time, Jonathan Shalit, within 3 months. We managed to get then Sony US wanted to sign it. Well, obviously we can't sign to Sony US. We had to make up a story to get out of that, you know. And, you know, they were turning down the biggest record company on the planet. And then we created a signing frenzy, and Sony UK were the ones who paid the most amount of money. And what we didn't realize was that dude, Dougie, was still at Sony. So we're signing now to a company. We're going to be walking around the halls, ducking every time we see this guy. It's like, duck behind it, get the fuck out of the way. Because this guy knows, you know, because we believe this guy knows. So then we signed a major label deal.
I'm going to play, Gav, just a little clip of the Great Hip Hop Hoax trailer, just because I just think it's only a minute or two long, and it's just got some good footage from you in those days as you were in that world. So for people that maybe haven't seen this already, this is great, and definitely watch the full film after this.
It was like having two early M&Ms.
I've never seen anything like it. I thought they were going to be huge.
And they're from America. That means they're amazing.
Silibil, Brains, both met in the same hip-hop scenes back in the day.
We basically decided to join forces together and take over the planet.
They were very young, they were dynamic. My plan was to use the Sony system to take them to the world.
Yeah, but I don't care, my mask. I'm like a plastic surgeon, I'm always staring at breasts.
I mean, I thought of the Beastie Boys.
I glue my pubes to my nipples, put some hair on my chest. I'm just a LMC and legitimately giving my willy to women that really feel me. I'm really silly.
They were now with one of the biggest record labels in the world. What would possibly stand in their way?
So, were you guys from Planet Zordon? Really, I can tell.
We were adopted by aliens when we were kids, and we travel around the solar system ever since then.
But what about really?
I'm Gavin Bain. I'm not Brains McLeod. I'm not American. I'm Scottish. I've never been in America.
They had an idea to cheat the system. The moment they woke up in the morning, they had to be American. To girls they met and to friends they made, greatest actors I've ever come across. You know, and they're full on Scots.
We just created a monster. There's so much lies about the lies, about the lies. Why can't you just tell the truth now? And that's what I want. That's what I want to do.
You call that radio?
Call that radio.
What back to the people who hated on me?
Right, and then I see the disinfectant that knocks it out in a minute.
That's mad, isn't it? Is this a Netflix thing? It's actually a podcast. What the fuck's a podcast? You know, it's kind of like a radio show. Oh, that radio. Yeah.
Just popped in there. And is there a way we can do something like that?
I couldn't help it.
By injection inside or
Yeah, I think so, because I don't think just paint in general, because I think like my poem is in my paint and
No, cut. You're watching You Call That Radio TV. We just watched a wee clip from the great hip hop Hoax, which is a film that everyone should watch. I believe that you can still, is it a pay on demand Vimeo or something like that for people to watch it?
Yeah, there's loads of places where you can see it, and you know, YouTube. You can get it quite a lot of places.
I would recommend you all check that out, guys. It's an amazing film, really well put together, and also there's a shorter version. The Vice documentary was really good to see as well, man. And that it was just amazing how much that blew up again on Facebook. That was just before I think that Billy was in the show, and it had just been shared like hundreds of thousands of times. On Facebook alone.
It got 25 million, and I think it's up to 25 million across all platforms. So it's like, and it did like 12 million in a week. And I did that really strategically because I started writing the screenplay, and I was getting, I was always had people come in, and there was another deal before when I did the book, and I was working with Irvin. And then I kind of decided that I'm going to write this. Everyone who tried to write the story, it was just coming out super lame, you know, like old white guys trying to write a story about hip hop. It was all so bad. Not Irvin. Irvin's one was pretty good, but still didn't quite get the story. So I decided eventually, spent like 10 years writing myself, from writing long form books and rhymes and all that to have a go at becoming a great screenwriter. And so I'd started that process, and I was writing a TV series, and then I wanted to drop that Vice thing. We started that project a while ago, and then it was strategic to drop it then so that I could get where we're at now in terms of film deals. So it was all a very strategic move. In many ways, like a lot of the stuff has, it's all like kind of you make your own luck in many ways, but also you need to be able to do some things. You know, like we aren't sitting here if I don't write that book. I write that book because I'm in pain again. I attempted suicide and all this shit that went wrong, but that book saved my life. And then it started people coming out the woodwork to offer deals, and then documentaries and stuff. But that was the first real place of getting across that first line. Write the book, write something that digs into your soul, tells the story of a boy coming from apartheid Africa, you know, to the big stage with Eminem, you know, and where it ends. And then, you know, my whole idea was to write the book, get a documentary film going, and tell it on screen, tell it every way you can. Documentary film, video game, podcast. Like that's the plan was to tell this full thing, all attached to music and be a musical project. And so we're kind of, I've been ticking off those boxes, like best-selling book, award-winning documentary, you know, motion picture. So it's been a big project, and people always ask, when's the film coming? It's like, you know, these things, when you've got a project like that, that's been my life for the last 20 years, it takes time. It takes time, but, you know, some people never write a book, you know, so it's a big deal to get these milestones out of the way, you know.
About the book, was that a cathartic experience writing the book? Because obviously, I know that you're consistently writing, making beats and stuff. You're constantly on it, but obviously hip hop by its very nature is very fast. You're doing multi-syllable rhymes. You're you know, so your brain's working very fast. Was it good to kind of just slow everything down a little bit?
Well, I think writing is a beautiful thing. I teach writing now. I teach creative writing, and I teach rap. And I teach rap to kids because I teach it as a way of reformatting your brain. And I'll tell you right now, if some people want to learn rap and they want to skip the freestyle part, and that's a very dangerous thing to do, because freestyling is the magic power. Freestyling is the ability for it's not for the ability just to say words, it's the ability for your process to speed up to lightning fast, like to unbelievable fast. So be able to actually think 3 sentences, 4 sentences, 5 sentences ahead. And so I've been writing since about 9-10 years old, as in diaries every night. And this is the diary I kept of every single day that we were signed. So
wow.
I've been a writer. Like you can see how insane these. Do you know what I mean? I should have got a bigger book, but yeah. So I was a writer, you know, and so taking on lyrics were a thing of like when what happened to me at school happened. And I was in hospital. My uncle playing Pac, Biggie, Wu, in my headphones when I was unconscious, created that kind of, I couldn't stop seeing words everywhere. That was where the lyrical stuff happened. It wasn't really that much of a choice. I'd fallen in love when I was a very young person to Snow and Farmer. Do you know somebody does something down there? Like that, I'd fallen in love with the melodic ability and the kind of skipping of words. That was the introduction for me. And so down the line, when my uncle gives me that music and injects that into my subconscious brain, when I woke up from that, all I could do was see rhymes. But it's transferable skills. It's about mastering language. That's why I say to anyone, please take on rap. Like, it's not some silly thing of people trying to be cool in the street. And it's a way out. Hip hop was always a way out of the ghetto, to stop selling crack, to make a demo and get yourself out, you know, and you can really change your life by using words, even if it's not to have a career in rap or whatever, by making your brain think so far ahead. There's so many games with rhymes that actually are good transferably into creating prose, to creating paragraphs, and to creating themes and motifs. And so once you're able to do them all, I think it's all one skill. I think of it as one skill. So writing that book was not just, I kind of got past that and was just eventually in a flow of writing, and did 9 drafts in 6 months, which is probably unheard of, because 6 months is a normal time of 1 draft. But I got into a flow there where I could just touch the keyboards, and it was therapy. It was writing a funny scene and then crying about the tragic event that happened, writing something funny, crying. You know, like there's 7 people that die through the period of time involved in that story. And so it was a heavy pressure to tell a story, to not offend other people, to not ruin lives by telling too true a story. You know, so you have to kind of protect people, and that's why there's some parts are like, I can't tell that exactly how it happened because lives will be over. But once you start doing that, once you start giving in to trying to help other people, and you're trying to change, you're affecting your own life story, that's bad. and I did that. And so now writing a film and writing it in TV series and long form podcast form, it's like you can just be honest, you know. And so this idea of lies is a really weird concept, because it's more rooted in the idea of what's your reality, what's your base reality. And the difference, a big part of the difference between me and Bill is we have different realities. He comes from a different, I come from trauma, and then I'm becoming a person. We take journeys for different reasons. Bill's a confident, good-looking character who puts an accent on. I'm searching for a character to fix my soul. So when I become Brains, in the journey I take, I eventually became Brains. The voice in my head was easily replacing those other accents and those other personalities who were all failures in what I thought, and became Brains McLeod. And to the point where now people like me. Now I'm like a popular guy. I'm finally like becoming, you know, which the drug of being, you know, of what fame offers you. But that's why I couldn't at the end of it just walk away. And I wasn't staying down here chasing anything. I was trying to become what I thought would save my life, you know? And so at the end of the story, you know, which we probably can get to, but the point being, like, writing that book was a way to stop it all and deal with all of this. Stop running from your past, deal with your past, and embrace this beautiful journey and see it for what it is. It's a, you know, it took a while for me to realize in the writing of the story, like, wow, like this isn't just something you can say, you know, it was just no big deal to me. This was my life, you know. So that's the hard thing that people to get to understand. And so if you want to understand, it is important to at least embrace the book, not so much the documentary, because the documentary is kind of, there's a story behind why that documentary veers into non-reality, and kind of the story gets a bit hijacked, which we can go into. But the root reality of a character and a protagonist is, if you want to really get into it, and especially if you're Scottish, there's so many Scots have come to me and been like, bro, like that book, you know what I mean? Like, you could be talking about me and Hamilton, you could be talking about me and Gavin, you could be talking about me, you know? So it's not like an unrelatable experience. Even the craziness of what we do, I think it's very relatable. So
it's very relatable for anyone in the Scottish scene, or even going back even to the English scene. Went back in the days when it was harder for English accents to get recognised. Obviously that changed a lot. The likes of Dizzy Rascal, Streets and stuff like that. And now, you know, you've got multi-million pound artists that are doing well all around the world. So the English accents kind of been accepted.
You know, even Scottish actors who try to make it, and then they go to London, and the first thing they're asked is like, well, can you do Shakespeare? Can you do English? I mean, because what can we really do? I mean, Highlander's been, you know, all these Scottish shows are kind of been made. You know, what can you do?
Got to put on a television Scottish accent, which it loses its authenticity, which we were talking a little bit earlier on with Graham. Actually, if anyone's not seen the earlier on show, you should watch this after it with Graham Armstrong from the Young Team, and he was kind of talking about that as well. About, you know, as soon as you start tinkering with his language, his experience of, you know, talking in colloquial Lanarkshire, once you start tweaking that into English, and it's no longer authentic, and you know, you want to be as authentic as you can, whether that's a rapper or an actor. Obviously, things are a bit better for Scottish rappers now. I think the Scottish cringe has died down somewhat. Still definitely there. It's still a big issue, and we've still not got that big multi-pound selling artist yet. But I mean, I think it will happen eventually. And there's all these different styles and different ways to kind of play with the accent, but still keep it as real as you can as well. But yeah, man, I want to get just the actual. So that, you know, we're talking about, you know, you're on live television. I mean, did you? Were you feeling extra nervous when you were going on live TV or anything like that?
Unbelievable, like, and like, but the night before MTV, Bill was out partying, but I was at home and preparing. And so when you watch that scene, you can see I'm like completely like back. You know, I'm watching everything that's coming out of Dave Berry's mouth, and we were on that for a week, and a lot of all the show hosts loved us, and we set this precedence of like, we're going to cut them off and start battling them and make fun of their clothes and stuff and do freestyle stuff with them. But he seemed to kind of want to get away from that and talk about our identity and stuff. And so it was, in a way, I was kind of like, yeah, what's going on here? Like, does he know? You know, because this isn't in the script of what we do. And you don't see it in the actual trailer, but I got us out of that by playing Porcupine. I just went in. He were answering, and I went into a freestyle and made fun of his mom and talked about the crowd, and then everyone started laughing, and that got us out of that. And that's again the ability of freestyling, the ability to think fast. You're in danger. Get out. You know, and that's what that game Porcupine was all about. But God, it was so nerve-wracking, and I don't think people understand this, but just after that, and what caused a lot of the danger in the story, because we were now touring, we had to make 50,000 fans or something in 3 months, or else the label, Sony only release you when you've got a big fan base. And so we did that, and we were doing these crazy things on stage, and the tour was, you know, doing really well before the Eminem tour. And then going on MTV was a huge risk, and I was trying to say, I don't think we should do this, because what if there's a few people in the industry who know us, the people at Polydor, the initial people at Polydor. There was a guy, Sean Loeb, who was running Hip Hop Connection. He was actually the one who called us the Rapping Proclaimers. And so there was these people out there who knew us. Dougie, in the building that we go to all the time, he's there. What if he sees it? So I was like, I don't think we should do this. So eventually we did it, and we just did what we always do, and we just rolled with it. But we were on tour, and we were seeing, because eventually Google was becoming quite prominent. That's how you found anything. We had Googled Silibil N Brains, and the Scottish rap forums at the time, underground hip hop forums, they lit up.
Remember that one?
they lit up saying, I know Gav, I battered him in a chip shop, and I love that, battered him in a chip shop. But like I know Bill, I went to school with him, and we were like, oh my God, if the label sees this, we're done. You know, like if anyone sees this. So I remember the next meeting that we had, because it was going in to meet with our manager and Sony, and we didn't know why this meeting had been called so urgent. So we thought, we're done. They know it. They know it. They know what we are. And so we went into that meeting, and they were just like, oh, we're pushing the release back. And they hadn't seen any of the stuff. No one was sitting there online Googling our names, you know, so fair enough. Nowadays, I think people would, but so nerve-wracking.
I think it's one of the number one things that people will be doing, just to control press and stuff like that, is to see, you know, if you've got a new act, or if you've got a new release, you Google it to see if anyone's writing reviews and stuff like that. So you wouldn't get away with that now. Absolutely.
There's probably a way that you could, I think you could use the internet to more of effect. I think if we knew what the internet was capable of, then I think you could do it to a bigger effect. There's been some people that try to get away with certain stuff, and then they failed because they haven't understood the flaws of the internet, as well as, you know, that there's a history there. But one of the things then that happened straight after that was, you know, the records are constantly being delayed. But when we did and we could talk about the Eminem stuff, you know, the tour, but when we did that first show at D12, I mean, this was the goal for us.
Well, I'll tell you what, Gavin, I'm going to just cut you off there, because we're going to do the Eminem story, the D12 story after this. But I know that you've got a meeting soon, so I want to actually play one of your other projects as well, because obviously you've been relentlessly making projects ever since, and I've got Thrasher lined up. So if you just want to give us a wee intro to that, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the touring with D12, which is absolutely crazy, man. The Eminem tour, which is wild. So, but yeah, Thrasher, man, what can you tell us a wee bit about that?
After Silibil N Brains, I wanted to do like a project that was so real, that was based on like being like a journalist, and it was an evolution of like where I started at, and sounds that I was really into, the punk rock skater side. So I formed a band, and we made like really post-hardcore punk rock, and we did really well. And through that band, I became good friends with Vic Galloway, and we toured all over the place, you know. But just after that band, I wanted to do a project that bridged all of the genres that I'd done. So something that was like boom bap hip hop with slamming guitars, like just banging guitars, you know? So that was behind this. That was the first solo record I did after Silibil N Brains and Hopeless Heroic. Then I did this as a solo, and I thought it was a perfect way to, you know, show that I'm kind of the sound, you know, I'm kind of behind these sounds, and I'm trying to get this perfect rock rap type thing done well, done lyrically, done like with some dopeness, you know? So this is Thrasher.
Oh, I'm so rock and roll. I've been sloshed for a week. You know I'm so down local, but that's who I wanna be. So why don't you just do you and maybe I can do me? Because we don't need no problems, capiche? Get back, gentlemen, I'm that venomous rap veteran. Call me John Bon, always on rap medicine. You living on a prayer, and my lyrics carry Kingslayer. Leave you right there with the crack skeleton. You rap better when I've had ketamine. So high, I feel like I robbed the plant Zeppelin. I'm rap stepping wolf. Take headshots like Lennon's wounds, then I prove your mom's an easy rider like the Hendrix tune. Story of the year on a journey, don't stop believing till I'm leaving on a gurney when they won't stop the bleeding. Usually on the loo I read music tweets, Rob Halfords and ride my 22 speed to the nudist beat. Judas Priest think I'm Jesus cause I seem hung. Feet hose my meatloaf, no pee, don't make a meal. Young, weird, one bearded, drunken metalhead, devil sent. You don't think I'm dope, you must be Megadeth. Oh, I'm so rock and roll, I've been sloshed for a week. You know I'm so down local, but that's who I wanna be. So why don't you just do you and maybe I can do me? Because we don't need no problems, capiche? You rap from Queens under pressure to dress better. My rap city got girlies beating me one-handed like they can death. Turning soon like Bukaka Show. Singing I love rock and roll and Joan Jett with my motorhead till my cock explodes. Doctor knows I'm evil as a bun. Filling my ding-dong like King Kong. Sing songs like Bob Dylan. So Baldwin like Phil Collin. Following hot women with more Comic Cons than the Comic Con. Building bomb children like IRA. You guys get slayed dire straits. Causing pussy riots. Setting fire to fire brigades. It was Billy Joel. I was still at home. William Pam like Tom Lily's video. Typical Scott, little bit odd, got to admit it, I shit in a broad. You thinking I'm kidding, I'm rock, slipping a Mickey and giving these women a shot. Wishing I'm watching the chicken from Mars, kicking the shit out of Nicki Minaj, the Nicki gets pop, picking up Ziggy's guitar, riffing like Ricky and Pop. Underrated and so frustrated. You think I'm crazy, about to lose my mind, but today I'm wasted and my brain is vacant. You think I'm singing by the look in my eye. Oh, I'm so rock and roll, I've been sloshed for a week. You know I'm so down local, but that's who I wanna be. So why don't you just do you and maybe I can do me? Because we don't need no problems, capiche? Word mama, they're getting on my nerves on the regular. I'm a nerd, rhyming words, bomb you like Pearl Harbor, it's teen spirit. My peace stinging HIV symptoms, leaving my women's knees dripping in jeans, Simmons, Charlie Sheen. But my lungs bad feeling. Good naked ladies waving, jumping out of Van Halen. I'm a dime wailing a small pond. My songs now we can't get it, but stand up and bombs like Bob Marley. I'm so. It's a cliffhanger, no boring poems like Nora Jones, Rolling Stone like Mick Jagger with a flip hammer. Everything's backward like moonwalking, Tupac walking, told me hip-hop needs a new platoon. Sergeant Block walking, I'm Oxycontin popping, Orange Goblin Farm, Scotland, call me Sex Pistol cause my Johnny's fine. Knocking down heaven's door with my hellish accent, smack the fella laughing, said it wasn't me, Eric Clapton. Underrated and so frustrated. You think I'm crazy, about to lose my mind, but today I'm wasted and my brain is vacant. You think I'm singing by the look in my eye.
I got you. Ready? Yeah, he's 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yo, this is Charlie Tuna from Jurassic 5 live and direct here in Glasgow, Scotland, and you call that radio?
Upon you, we are here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow us as people of conscience to lose our morale. We see the crimes of this government, how they support every dictator and criminal on this earth. Sometimes you can feel down. Sometimes you're
You're tuned in to You Call That Radio TV. Before we go back to Gav, I just want to give a shout out to some of the guests that are on next week. Tuesday, we've got the amazing Melissa Kelly at 5 o'clock, and then we've got Melissa Vita from down south at 7 o'clock. And then Wednesday, we've got Gail Porter, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And we've got an amazing one for Wednesday night that I'm not allowed to confirm just yet. Well, I haven't confirmed just yet. I'm not allowed. And on Thursday, we've actually got, if you've enjoyed this story tonight, I think you'll also enjoy Stevie Creed on Thursday, who's also known as the Brooklyn Scotsman, who had an interesting documentary on BBC iPlayer recently. So he's going to win the show next Thursday as well. There's actually more than that, but that's all I'm telling you just now. I'll make a wee video for that tomorrow, with who's coming up next week, once I've confirmed everyone else. And yes, You Call That Radio, we usually stream most nights at 7, but we're going to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, as much as we can, fit as much shows as we can in those 3 days, so I can record the new Jackal Trace and Gyro Babies music at the weekend. And we've got Miles Better live from Capture Works on Friday night tonight. Gav, just really enjoying that thrash stuff. It wasn't me, Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton. Some great lines in that, man. And yeah, man, we'll go. So let's just. I know that you've got a time restraint here, so let's just get into the D12 Eminem stuff, because obviously at that time when D12 were around, Eminem was the biggest artist in the world. Still is to some extent, but for people that maybe are a bit younger or weren't aware, that I mean, Eminem was the hugest planet on. The hugest artist on the planet, and obviously the perfect user, the perfect support slot. It's a dream come true, but also a bit of a nightmare as well, because this lie has grown wings and all sorts.
Well, I mean, and it's a crazy thing though, because you could say a lie, right? But I had a dream. I had this dream before I met Bill. Before I met Bill, I had a dream, and I would draw it in my rhyme book. And it was basically us on stage and getting ready backstage and then going on stage. And the dream was either sometimes the dream would go amazing, but it was always, I remember seeing D12 logo. Now I saw this D12 logo before D12 was a band. So, and I drew the logo in sleep. And I've been a lucid dreamer since I was very young. I've had a weird relationship with dreams since I was very young. Sometimes it's amazing, sometimes it's horrifying. So I always write my dreams down. And I have the benefit of looking backwards at my dreams, and some things happen. So I tended to follow my dreams in a really very weird, real ways. So when I first saw Bill, the reason I decided to kind of really approach him and have him in my life in a big way wasn't just because I needed someone like that in my life. It was also because I remember him from my dream. He was there, and in this dream, we're on stage, and Bill and I are on stage. And obviously, I couldn't exactly see who he was, but his essence was in that dream. And I remember in the dream turning around and seeing D12's banner behind me. So I drew that in my rhyme book, and that was something we knew, because I remember showing Bill the rhyme book, and he was there the one time when I woke up from the dream and told him about it. And sometimes the dream would go really bad because I'd forget my lyrics on stage. That would be the worst part of the dream, and then the dream would collapse. Everything would go black, and I'd be back in hospital, and I'd be like, and I'd have a night terror. So when we managed to go to get that, so the idea of that coming together is, it wasn't just us who said that we were Eminem's friends. People believed that before even meeting us, and that got around the industry. And it was a case of we were telling this crazy story and improvising on it all the time. That was the game we were playing to make it interesting. But when we came off tour, and you dream of doing tours and you want to be on the road all the time, but when you're on for 40 nights in a row, And we had a quite acrobatic stage show, so we were injured. I had a fracture going right through my shin, and we were just on stage all the time doing these crazy shows. So when we came off the road that morning, I remember crawling into bed like a zombie and being like out as soon as my head hit the pillow, and then bang, my phone goes, and it's Del, our manager, going, "Good news and bad news. Bad news is you're going back on the road," and I'm just like, "Fuck off, phone down," and he calls me back and he's like, "No, the good news is you're going on the road with your best friends." And I'm just like, "Dale, I don't have American. I don't have fucking time for this, but then he's like, no, listen, like, wake up. Like, the bus is coming in 2 hours to pick you up for sound check. And I'm like, whoa, I remember sitting up like a fucking bolt of lightning hit me. And I'm like, is this real? And then going down and telling the lads who are all just like gearing down and getting into some sleep. And I'm like, we're fucking supporting D12. Like, fuck, because and everyone's like, that's amazing. Like, this is the dream. Everyone knows about the dream. It's a theme now. Like, fuck, this is the dream, like actual real dream. And then immediately everyone's like, oh no, because Del, our team is going to be there. Label reps are going to be there to see the reuniting of these best friends. And so we knew that the bus journey over, and the tour bus picked us up and we go there. That journey, I remember the feeling of like, fuck. This is, because our record was going to be finally released the Friday after the show. And so it was like, shit. Like the tension in the bus on the way, like you could hear the clicking, the clock ticking, getting louder, and everyone feeling like this is going to be over. And we get there. And then when you get into Brixton, the only way in, the load in is through the stage, one way to the other. So we're on one side of the stage, they're sound checking, and we're like, fuck, there's no way for them to they have to come past us now. There's no way out of this. And at that point, Bill and I, they hung their mics up, and Bill and I just looked at each other and was like, fuck it. Let's just do what we always did. We always go for Brian. Bang. And then we'd go into it, and then we rushed out on stage like, bro, like fucking high five to them, grabbing them. I remember trying to get my arms around Bizarre and trying to latch my arms so he couldn't like get away, so it looked like he was cuddling me hard. And I guess because my cousin Bain ran down, and he was like trying to distract Del and Dan and people from Sony. He's trying to distract them, like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, trying to get out of the way. But he's just trying to distract them in case this goes badly. But he turned around and just looked, and he said, dude, it looked like fucking your best friends. And so there's a weird thing of like, this was a dream. I used to tell people before we decided, I'd get drunk and be like, people would be like, fuck you, rap shit, like, you guys are shit, and like just kids in the street when we started to get a name in Dundee. And I'd be like drunk being like, you'll fucking see, we'll be on stage with Eminem in like a year, I'd say that. And then, so that lie is kind of like, is it a lie, or are you fabricating the future? Are you, like kind of alchemy, forcing the future, because then it fucking happens. And so by the time we're into the tour, like that first gig was it was the dream. I remember seeing the bar, the Green Bar in Brixton. I remember seeing the drapes, everything from the dream. And I almost forgot my lyrics because I was so caught up in deja vu. I was like, fuck. And I turned around, and there's the huge D12 banner that I saw. I don't know if you can understand the weight of deja vu. It felt like I was like, oh my God, like the entire world's going to collapse, because like I'm stuck inside this and my hands are shaking. I'm like, fuck. I'm also on shit to keep my levels up. I'm taking shit, I've got taken uppers and downers to control like, the sweats and stuff. So I'm like a complete fucking mess. But in this moment, everything just froze. And I just fucking, my head is spinning, me penicillin, my penicillin with hellish visions of being with the devil chilling. The clever villain will stop until I have 11 million and my bed is filling with 20 women that put my venom in them. Bang, and then boom, like the crowd just fucking exploded. And that was it. It was like, whoa, we're here. Like, and the dream isn't falling apart. It's real. We've done it. Like, it was the full realization of a moment. It was a loop, an absolute real time capsule cut, And so when we went off stage that night, I remember being just in the I kind of get a bit emotional at this point, because I remember being in the dressing room, and looking across at Bill after we did that show, and it was like when the show comes together like perfectly, right? All the flips work at time, the guitar swinging's all working, like the crowd are going nuts. We fucking rip members of the crowd, all work to like the absolute perfection, you know? And I remember being in the dressing room afterwards with Bill, and we're like just getting a bit tanked and stuff. And I remember looking across, and he just looked at me, and he just like raised his beer, and it was like, we fucking did it. Like that, we did it. And then so I went outside to get a moment, and I was just like so like wow, you know. And then Bill came out, and I remember the kind of conversation going along the lines of like, look, whatever fucking happens from here on in, whatever the world thinks from here, however this goes, they can't take this away. Like this, we just proved it. Like we proved we're elite. We proved we're on that rhyme level. Our beats, everyone loves it. We've proven that we are the real deal. And then at that moment, our fucking lawyer Tim, who's been after our passports, who was refusing to let us sign endorsement deals and didn't want to let us sign the Sony deal because we didn't have passports. He needed to see those American passports, and he started to, why can't they give me their passport? He started to feel dubious. Apparently, he did Google Silibil N Brains, and he saw all the things online. And so we turned around, and he was like, "How's it going?" And we're like, "Oh, hey, you know, is this about the passports?" And he's like, "I know who you are. I know who you are." And
this is the same night.
Yep, right after that show. So imagine being fucking slammed right to the bottom. Our standing there, our fucking assholes our sphincters are clenched tight because he's like, "You can't do this. Your record's coming out in a week. Stop that record. Like you don't understand. This is fraud. You're gonna go to jail. Like, do you understand that if you can't pay the money back that they've spent, and by the time this record comes out, they will have spent $1 million easy. You've been given over 250,000. Where's the money? You got the money? Do you have the money? Where's the money? You're not going to be able to pay that back. You're going to go to jail for fraud for sure, but your families are going to have to pay that money. Do you understand what you've done?" And we were just like frozen stiff, and then we just burst out laughing, and we just were like, "Dude, like, what are you smoking, bro? Like, you're crazy!" Like, slapped him in the face, like, "Dude, you fucking crazy!" And then Bill went inside, and I remember him kind of saying, like, "Gav, like, you're smarter than this. Don't do this. You're clearly amazing rappers. Like, don't do this. You're gonna throw your entire lives away." And then there's the fucking noise and rumbling coming along the hallway, and it's fucking M, and it's like, fuck. You know, because he knows we're not friends with Eminem. And so it's kind of for him, he's like, "Oh, let's see how this plays out." You know? And then I ducked inside the dressing room because it was like, I'm not fucking playing that game. Like, he's going to stop and be like, "Oh, hey, you guys have known each other." You know, so, but once we got on the road, we kind of forgot that moment happened a little bit. And we went on this tour, and we had our own tour. We do the D12 shows, and then we go and do our own shows, packed out. You know, it was mental, like the aggressiveness that we went to town on this. But I remember, like, when we came off that tour, and the thing that really started the riff, the downward spiral with Bill and I, was that I stopped that release. And I'll say, I put my hands up. Of course I did, because if that release came out as we were doing it, we would have got fucking arrested. Like, it would have went bad, because the label could have had an easy way out then of recouping their money legally. And so I then came up with the idea of, look, we're touring as a band. Let's make it a full-on band. Like, let's make the actual, you know, a full-on band, re-record the songs as like punk rock, metal, hip hop. It's not that hard to do. We're doing it live. And then we can phase the accents out, because in punk rock, accents don't matter. Like, it's just about the music. It's just about what's dope, you know. In hip hop,
most people do sing in American accents. That's
yeah, it's just in hip hop. It's all about that kind of, which I believe is in somewhat a very oppressive attitude of, you stay in your fucking lane, keep it real. No, you stay there. You keep it real. You know, like, and you see that kids throughout the world, they kind of give up on going for things because they have that mentality of, stick here, don't go outside of it, don't do anything original, don't experiment with your sound, don't, you know, like, you have to become the artist. Like, me taking that journey and Bill taking that journey is like, I had to do that. I had to go and become a vocalist. I had to go and become a better producer. I had to become a composer. It would never have happened if I didn't take that journey, you know. So that was kind of how that went. But the fact that I stopped that release, and there was always a clock with Bill. He was like, look, if it's not coming out here, then I'm going to go. And that pressure was huge on me, because I'm like, I'm controlling a label. I'm controlling, and I'm on all the calls and I'm in the meetings. Bill's not really privy to everything that's going on there. And so I'm taking the pressure there, and he's giving me the pressure there. And I'm like, fuck, how do I make this work? Because he's going to go and then it's over, So when I did that, he was like, fuck you, I'm going. You deliberately did that. You know that Mary's pregnant. You know that I'm getting married. You did this deliberately. And I'm like, I did it deliberately because I'm trying not to get fucking sued, I'm trying to save this, So that is that ticking clock of like, I gotta go. And me feeling like, well, I'm sorry I can't make you famous overnight, but this shit takes time, Like, no doubt.
You actually did a very good job in a short period of time. I mean,
a time frame.
How long was that time frame? So from you going to London to touring with Eminem?
Dude, that was about a year and a half. I mean, we were in London for 2.5 years. 2 years, 157 gigs, 5 albums recorded. Like, tell me another artist in history that's done that. Like, the ability to just fucking do that. But I just feel that Bill doesn't remember that because he wasn't in the studio every day making the beats. He isn't in it, his experience is just coming.
That's half it. That's half it.
Funny.
That's half it.
That's all right. We can go. I can join that meeting later. It's all good.
Oh, amazing, mate. Brilliant. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
But that's what I'm saying is like the difference between us, one's doing the business and the beats and everything, and then the other's just experiencing and also getting more and more angry that things are being delayed. And I'm like, I can't handle that. I'm trying to fix everything, and trying to make this right. But it's like, I get that, people can't put Mary, his wife, can't put her life on hold. I totally get that. But me, I couldn't understand that from where I was at the time, because I was Brains. I'm Brains going, fuck y'all, fuck everything. Like, we talking about, like, we're in this to die, and I couldn't see that at the time. I couldn't understand that, it's a very different philosophical argument that we lived our lives with. The very thing that makes Bill walk away at that point is the very reason that it was always going to have a lifespan of short, because you've got someone who believes, like, I want fame. If I can't get fame on my terms, then I want family, and I'm never going to walk from family. And there's an internal struggle in that. And that's Bill's story. But mine is like, what's the point living if you can't live your dream? That's two very different philosophical arguments that really causes the conflict and will create a beautiful movie and has created an unbelievable story, one that's kind of relative, because friends, you don't really know your best friend. And when you start a band, you don't know that stuff about each other. You don't know what you really believe, You know that you want it, but you want it for different reasons. I wanted the success to be able to live with my art every day and keep making and keep impressing people, stop people from arguing and just break their minds for a second by listening to this dope rhyme. Like, I was in love with that, and I wanted to have that creative life. The award for me was if I can get a creative life. I don't want to work a normal job. I want to make art. I want to write stories, make films, music all my life. That's the win. And for Bill, that wasn't the same win. So we had to understand that we're very different people. One is on a weird journey towards finding themselves, and one has left a really nice life where he is the cool guy, and he's kind of on hold from that life. So it's always like he needs to get that life back. It can't be one or the other. So that was the ticking time bomb, and that was always going to end with fights, and it was always going to progressively get more and more violent, because that's the way we were.
Every band, it's a struggle to get every band member or collaboration on the same page without this incredible backstory. Lou says, that's so amazing. I've had dreams that have came true since I was a kid, and recently started writing a book on dreams, and the story you told is basically what I was wanting to prove. I've had dreams as well that have came true. I've also written songs that from woke up and just wrote the words down or had the melody and made that a song straight away as well. So I think we had a really good show called Dreams Are Mental with Will Sharon that I've put a link in the comments. If anyone's into Dream Chat, he's a very interesting guy, and we talked about what they all mean and stuff like that. So I recommend anyone to check that out. Petra says, it's not a lie. It was as it is, as it will be.
Nice, Petra, nice.
And Ali says, oh my God, what a story. Chris says, tell Gav to not bother putting the football on after this. I don't know what's happening in the football world, but you might not approve.
Amazing.
We've got Zenga. Shouts to Zenga, legend. He's laughing away.
Zenga, that's not Bill's mom, is it? Because Bill's mom's name is Zenga.
I don't know, or it might be a different one then. I thought it was Zenga Anu. And it's a Zenga Anu as well. I don't know. I don't know who that's. Zenga. Which Zenga are you? We've got what a story. Mark McKinnon says, I'll be watching the documentary after this. Another brilliant show. Really enjoying this. Zenga Music says, got the doc on Amazon Prime now. Can't wait.
Cool.
Sharon says, not being funny. I think my son would go ballistic if someone slagged his mom off. Everyone's got different levels, but in hip hop, it's just if you're going to go in battle, then you've got to be prepared for, your family and your relationships to be questioned. And you did do quite a lot of battle raps as well, man. What was the experience of that?
Yeah, I mean, when we went down, like I immediately immersed myself in the battle scene because we kind of came from that competitive rhyme world, And I think if you're going to become a rhymer, I always tell kids, like, you better prepare yourself to at least kill it in a cipher or take on people. And back then, our mind state would be around other rappers, and it's a bit shitty, but it's a very dog eat dog world where it's like, anyone challenges me right now, I'm fucking killing them. Like, that's that mentality you have to have. And so you always have to have bars, or you always have to be ready just to freestyle at the drop of a hat and be about that life, And so when I went down to London, I went on a bit of a run, and we had I did the old bar battles in Camden and went kind of unbeaten there for a little while, I think 6-1. And then after this whole thing, I started hanging out with the Don't Flop guys, and I did a few battles there. But at one point they had me up against Louis, Scottish rapper Louis, and and it got aggressive because he'd come to one of our a comeback Silibil N Brains show in Glasgow, and he stood there the whole time, like looking at me like he wanted to fight or something, like just being really kind of like other great rappers in Scotland, like Nitty Grits and like a lot of really cool dudes.
Well, actually, one of RST from Shadow People's actually commented. As Shadow People, we supported Silibil N Brains at Pivo. Amazing to watch them live. I was actually the booker for that gig. I was at Pivo. If I'm right, I was there. I think I was the venue booker at that time.
That was the show I was talking about. Yeah, Louis came.
Put it on. Yeah.
And after the gig, I was standing outside with people and just having a great conversation with the Shadow Boys guys and other people who seem to embrace it and get it. Like, I think when you know the story, I think you kind of like, you can click, you can get it. But I didn't feel like that from Louis. He was standing like a few steps from me, and he was kind of looking at it. I felt like, well, what's going on here? And then I walked away from that, and then he went online and started saying things like, and then I was like, so then the battle got put together by Don't Flop, and I got so into writing horrifying bars about him, and then he never turned up to the battle. I went all the way up to Glasgow to battle him, and into the Lion's Den, that's his hometown, and he never turned up, and so I kind of realized, like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're growing up, and what are you doing? You want to try to destroy a person with rhymes? And they kept trying to put me with other Scots like Makar and really dope kids that I really like them, and I didn't want to stand in their way. I don't want to be the person that beats someone who wants to come up, And I really like dudes like Z from the Dungeon and like Dungeon Dwellers and all those dudes. I really respect those dudes. I don't want to battle them. Like, they're dudes that I really, really like and want them to do well. So I kind of just was like, I'm done with this battle thing. I was also doing Hopeless Heroic and punk rock music. The battle thing wasn't really in me anymore. So I kind of evolved away from that. But it was an experience.
It's actually a good a wee lineup, because we've actually got a Hopeless Heroic tune lined up. It's Wake Up and Smell the Coffin. If you want to give us a wee intro to that.
Yeah, this is just a video that we made from that tour. This was the tour that we did kind of after the documentary came out. And we kind of started that tour in 2012, and we did an entire year. We did literally an entire year of touring. And in between that, I went off and made a record at Robin's studio at Teapot with Bill, and did so. This some of the footage from this is from shots of a tour long. I think we made this video halfway through the tour, but the tour was a whole year, and I think along the way, I did like maybe 400 shows, because I was doing speaking at schools in the morning about confidence and drugs, and then going and doing a show in the school at lunchtime, and then doing sound checking and doing a show at night, and then doing a DJ set. And I did that across the UK and Europe. We did that with the band for an entire year. So this was some of the highlights from that tour for the song Wake Up and Smell the Coffin.
Let's check that out, and then we'll come back with an exclusive world premiere. So stay tuned.
I said no, and listen to them. I said no, your future's out there, you got to go. Call it quits. I said no, and let them win. I said no, your future's out there, you got to go. Wake up and smell the coffin. Stay here around where dead men walking. What don't kill us make us stronger. Tell that to Stephen Hawking. Good education, yeah, I'm still poor. Here comes the bailiffs knocking at my door. Stay home with us. Fuck it, I said no. You fucked your bitch. I said no. And listen to them. I said no. Your future's out there. You got to go. Call it quits. I said no. And let them win. I said no. Your future's out there. You got to go. We are the desperate. Fucked up and disrespected. Your future's out there. You got to go. We are the desperate. Fucked up and disrespected. Your future's out there. You got to go. Shit on every day like a statue. Ready to rub my back if I have to. Cause this get cash or get destroyed. Ain't that a pain in the ass like hemorrhoids? Good education, yet I'm still poor. Here comes the police knocking at my door. Stick on with us. Fuck it, I said no. You fucked your bitch. I said no. And listen to them. I said no. Your future's out there. You got to go. Call it quits. I said no. And let them win. I said no. Your future's out there. You got to go. You fucked your bitch. I said no. And listen to them. I said no. Your future's out there. You got to go. Call it quits. I said no. And let them win. I said no. Your future's out there. You got to go. We are the desperate. Fucked up and disrespected. Your future's out there. You got to go. We are the desperate. Fucked up and disrespected. Your future's out there. You got to go.
Brothers and sisters.
Is that you, Daniel? Are you before me?
Call that radio.
You call that radio.
Hello? Yes, this is Dog.
This is You Call That Radio, absolutely banging. Petra says, good tune. Mark says, can you do it with the sound? Sorry if the sound was it okay? It can be funny with live streaming, man. I'm at the mercy of the streaming gods if it was just a wee bit off. But hopefully you got the idea. You've still got a Hopeless Heroic on Bandcamp, is that right? Is
Yeah,
that
on Spotify. Yeah, on
Mechanical
Spotify.
Lines EP?
Yeah, you can get all of Hope's Heroic. We did like 2 albums, and obviously all 5 albums of Silibil N Brains are on there, and then my 2 solo albums so far are up on Spotify, all on Spotify. So just go Silibil N Brains, Hope's Heroic, or Brains McLeod. You can get pretty much everything. 10 albums. It's pretty crazy. A 10 album journey, you know.
It's a lot, man. It's a lot of stuff. And amazing, man. Zenga. It's Joe. It is Joe. It's Joe Zenga. Great show, guys. Absolutely. Good to see you, Joe. Get you on the show soon as well, man. It'd be good to hear what you're up to. Not seeing you in ages. And yeah, man. With regards to it's now, what's the future like? What's this year looking like at the moment? Obviously, screenplay stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working. Last year, I decided because I wanted to keep telling the story, but I wanted to do something. You know, obviously the story is linked to music in many ways, linked to the music, but I wanted to do some crazy stuff with it. Like I wanted to take it on the road as a kind of theater production, like a play that tells the story entirely in rap. I wanted to do like video game stuff, you know, just all the stuff. But like I wanted to be able to get the music to a place like where I could like score an orchestra telling the story, you know. So whereas talent, you know, like actually writing wise, I can do that. And you can hear in the music that I make, I always have a kind of epic idea. I always use strings. I always use like kind of big ideas. But sound wise, obviously, I went back to uni last year to get my sound engineering degree, to master mastering, to master mixing. And that's kind of like rebirthed in me like a new love for another side of music, not just the writing, because I have produced and mixed and mastered a lot of our stuff, and that's the only side of the game where I feel like some tracks I let you know, it could have got better, you know. So that's what I went back. I've been doing that. And the same time, like during a pandemic, you think like there's a lot of time, but like when you're constantly working on shit, there isn't. I've been teaching young kids how to rap for the last 10 years. Some of them are like big rappers now. Some of them are actually like in the battle scenes around the world. So, you know, so I've become like a dad to a lot of these kids. So I've been turning that into like rap courses that you can take online. I started the process over the last few years of writing screenplays of the story for TV and for film, and I've just finished the film one, and I'm stoked with it. I think it's it. And then, you know, theater production that kind of been in the works as well, and then, you know, podcasts and all sorts of things telling the story. So it's one big bang, and then that is really, for me, that is the happy ending. You know, like when I started this journey, it wasn't just about becoming a character. It was about being no one as well. It was about being punk rock. It was about like, fuck this. I don't want the normal life. I don't want the you know, inside I'm like born creative. Like I can't live. Anytime I try to live a normal job or, you know, and turn off the music side, I can't do it. Like that's suicide road to me. So the win for me was always that now I'm in a place in my life where people come to me for projects. I license beats, I sell beats around the world, you know, like and so that I do the hip hop thing still, and it's a day job, you know, and it's also I do the writing and my journey of becoming a great writer. I always think never be the best. You know that idea when you're a kid, you're like, I want to be the best. Cool, but never let yourself be the best at anything, like, because then where do you go from there? And I've always had that mentality. When I finish a beat, like something you'll just hear in a bit, like I kind of go, wow, the fucking hell, how did I do that? You know, I saw it in my dream and I brought it to life. But then immediately on the next beat, I think I'm shit. I think, fuck, you know, how did I do that? I can't remember. I'm not that good. And when I finish a writing project, I think I can never do this. So I constantly battle that thing, but which I think is good, because then it feels like you constantly get better, rather than this bad ideology that's in a lot of rappers and hip hop was like, I'm the dopest, man. I'm the dope. And it's like, shut up. Like, as soon as you think like that, you're done. You can't get better than that, you know? So don't limit yourself that way. So I've always kind of, even though playing a character, I've always kind of been like, I'm never going to be as good as I want to be. And that's the thing. So I'm still, it's not about chasing. It's about being. It's about being a living, breathing artist and creative. And that's the journey I'm on. And I don't see that journey ending anytime soon. I'm more than happy that.
Well, you did say, man, it was your life. You know, the dream that you had was a life of creativity, and that's what you're doing just now, man. So that's amazing. Not many people can do that. You know, I'm just about nearly there as well, and it's you know, that is the dream, to do something that's not. I mean, I just don't think I'm very employable as well. It's like, I need to do this. I need to do something creative. It's otherwise there's no really options for me at this point in time. And man, just about the, I wanted to just actually touch on the freestyle thing briefly as well. Like, so like, I totally agree with you about freestyle, and it's something that I've struggled with. So, you know, there's been times where if I'm in the right environment, you know, with other people who are freestyling, I can just flick a switch and I feel like I'm there and I can really enjoy it, especially when I'm in a semi-competitive environment.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm given the microphone and there's a camera there, or I'm on a stage, then I do tend to revert to sort of mostly pre-written, because I know that, because obviously I spend so long getting the words just right that I worry that I'm just going to say something stupid, or it's not going to be very good if I just do it completely off the top of the dome. So what, I mean, obviously is that a confidence issue? Is there any advice you'd give for anyone who is trying to sort of get more into freestyling?
Yeah, but where I start from is, you know, like, and this is the thing, when you come from like trauma, like you can say that, oh, I'm doing it because I want to be the best at something, but actually what you're really saying is I'm doing it because I want to feel better about myself. And that as a driving force is like way stronger than something, you know, superficial like fame or whatever like that. That's just words people say, but and might be words that I've said once upon a time, but that's not really it. So when it is about, like, for me, freestyling was being able to sit there. There's always noise in the head, but being able to sit there and like take a word like versatility. My verse is killing these herbs, all these girls in the world will be feeling these, you know, disturbed villainy, you know, and so it's like freestyling in multisyllabic was something that kind of stopped my brain. It focused my brain, because multisyllabics are quite hard. You have to try to fill every space with the part of the multi, and so like that took my mind, and I was able to like start playing these freestyle games where you can take anything that's in your sphere and see words and start, you know, it might sound autistic, but for me it was like such a distraction from thinking you're useless. You're useless. You're orthogonal, you know, and words would come in, they'd be hating me, and I'd be like, wait, orthogonal, that means perpendicular. I twerk and stick my purple dick in you. You know, like I would start doing that, you know, and that was like, whoa, I'm not thinking about how negative my life is anymore. I'm doing something creative, and I'm building blocks on top of blocks. So when you see it like that, and the competitive nature is with you, and you then have the driving force of like, I want to become better at this so I can keep negative thoughts away from me. And then accidentally, because you have that drive and you're kind of, your self-validation is linked to how good you are, rather than dudes in a circle. When you are the person who's like, if I don't nail this, I'm the person who's going to kill me. And that's scarier than someone saying some negative things about you. And I think once you have that driving force, and then you go out and you be in front of people and you fail and it sounds shit, and then you do it again, but because you're driving yourself forward. I think if you don't have that drive and you fail and someone goes, that's shit, you know, or you don't see the faces lighting up, which is the real true meter, then I think it's easy just to quit or even stop thinking like that. But for me, freestyling is a mechanic for my life. It's it's how I make people laugh when I'm just hanging out, just freestyling funny things in my head. It's absolute mechanic that I live my life by. If I'm writing songs, I sit freestyling for hours. And that's why I try to teach rappers is like really look at this skill, this magical skill of freestyling. Get so good at it in your own time so that you can do what Tam from Second Nature does. What he was an incredible. I think he was commenting last week, the last time you were with Bill, but he was incredible from Glasgow with his freestyle ability. I loved his freestyle ability. He'd rhyme anything, and I could feel when he was doing that around us, people start looking in, and that was really one of the things as well that made me think, wow, what a superpower, like to be able to freestyle like that. And I always use it, and that's what the game Porcupine that I created. That's what it was about doing. I was like trying to train my brain. Every second that someone's not saying words, that I have to listen to someone, I'm playing that game. And actually, sometimes I play it when people are talking. If I just drown it out, I start playing the game. And so it roots the synapses in your brain to be all about improv, go, And I think so. That's how I would use it. Is like that can be a mechanism for life. Like if you go up to someone you really like, you start to think of what can I say that can make this person realize I'm a good person. That's all. My head goes into freestyle ability. It's the same thing. I might just not be using rhyme.
I can relate to the whole when zoning off when someone. It doesn't necessarily need to be someone boring you, but when someone says a particular word, you're like, oh, that's a good word. That could be handy. Then you start thinking how that could be. My Petra says, I will never hear perpendicular the same way again. Alex says, this is fascinating stuff to listen to. Mumblebeat says, the real dream chaser.
Nice.
Amazing, man. Well, just to wrap things up, man, we're going to play an exclusive world premiere of one of your beats. So maybe just a wee introduction to that and, the process of beat making.
Yeah, so this is like, I've always been, when I was a kid, the savior for me a lot of the times when I was a kid is my granddad had a video store in South Africa, and I would go in and just sit and watch movies like Ben-Hur, like Terminator, and like all these films in the 80s with incredible soundscapes, and so that started to impregnate my mind before I even knew about rap. And so I think if you listen to the entire discography of my journey, you'll hear epic, like you can hear that this kid's trying to take, and when I used to take samples and cut things like that way, that old school style of beat making in the MPC, I was always looking for the dun dun, I was always looking for the bam 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 bam, I was always looking for that. DJ Premier was huge in the way that he would snatch horns and stuff, and so horns, violins, all that stuff, you just used to do something to me in a different way, so I've always done that. And so now having the ability to play everything and I don't have to struggle to have ideas or anything. I can just hear a movie score in my head. And because I'm working in movies and film and video games, everything requires score. So now I'm constantly freestyling melody and turning that into like, something massive from like the remit of my kind of soundscape, So I finally got to a place where I'm loving mixing again. I'm loving making music that doesn't always have to have lyricism on it and can have space. But now I finally kind of got to like I think a sweet spot, which is crazy. 20 years into the journey, and I'm finally going, hey, I'm actually a really good producer now, But like this one beat, like I got COVID at the end of the year, and this beat, the fact that I was going to go back to, I'd started screenwriting, but I couldn't write through with the COVID because I had a lot of brain fog.
What rhymes with COVID-19?
Bro, my spine's clean. I go and have nice dreams, too many things. But like, so I got to a point where I made this beat, like what you'll hear, and just the kind of feeling like I can't wait to get back to mixing that beat was really what got me through COVID. I felt like, God, I got to make that beat. I got to finish that beat. So I just finished it just at the end of the year, and I've been screenwriting ever since. And I listened to it again today, and it's one of these things like if you can't like your own shit, like don't do it. If you can't love your own beats, get out. Because you have to. Like, and this is one of the first things. It's one of the first tracks of the new record I'm making. I've got like 40 tracks already for it already, but I'm looking for the best tracks again. That kind of crazy drive. but this is the track that I think kind of, it says where I'm at, and it says the journey. It's almost like it musically says the journey, you know. So I thought it would be absolutely perfect on your show, Matt, because obviously you'd booked us. I think you actually booked Hopeless Heroic as well back in the day. I don't know if you remember that, but yeah, this I thought would be the best place to like let people hear, because I normally don't do this, and you know what it's like when you're a beat maker. You don't want to let anyone hear your shit till it's ready. So it's very nerve-wracking to do that. So I thought this would be the best place, I think.
Oh, thank you very much, man. We love an exclusive here. We can even play the exclusive banner. Hold on. Where are we? Exclusive. Where are we? Yeah, we got it. Right, now we can play it. Thank you very much, Gav. Fascinating as always. We could talk all night. Exclusive. Kong versus Mothra.
You call that radio?
Fucking radio. Here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow.
You call that radio?
however you want to say it.
You call that radio?
You call that radio? However you want to say it, that's kind of part of the fun.
Powered by our patrons.
Brothers and sisters.